Well, we're doing statistics, and a researcher wanted to know how the 50,000 voters of Billings felt about a voter initiative. To study this, she goes to a Billings mall and randomly selects 500 shoppers and asks them their opinion. 60% indicate they are supportive of the initiative. What is the population of this survey? Well, the population of the survey are the voters of Billings. And then B, what is the size of the population? And the size of that population is 50,000. So C, what is the size of the sample? Now keep in mind, you're not going to call all 50,000 voters, but you will call a subset of those 50,000 voters, and that's called the sample. So it says, what is the size of the sample? And that's 500 voters. And D, give the sample statistic for the proportion of voters surveyed who said they'd vote for the initiative. Well, that's going to be 60% of the sample, which corresponds to 300 of those sampled. 60% of 500 is 300. Finally, E, based on this sample, we might expect how many of the 50,000 voters to vote for the initiative. Well, we're talking 0.6 times 50,000. And if you carry that multiplication out, what you're going to get is 30,000. So 30,000 of the voters, it's projected that 30,000 of the voters will vote for the initiative. And we're done. Now let's talk for a moment about statistics besides this question. When you talk about a sample, then you talk about statistics such as the mean, the median, or the mode, or other things. When you talk about the entire population, you're talking about parameters. They're not called statistics, then they're called parameters. So the point is, statistics relate to or characterize the sample. Okay, now let's deal with this question. And it says, identify the most relevant source of bias in this situation. A survey asks the following question. Should the mall prohibit loud and annoying rock music in clothing stores catering to teenagers? Well, here's our list of biases, and among them is loaded questions, and this is a loaded question. A loaded question's when the question wording influences the responses. And notice, this already packs an opinion. It says loud and annoying rock music. So that's a loaded question. Well, here's another bias question, and it says, a survey asked people to report their actual income and the income they reported on their tax form. Well, among the options is this perceived lack of anonymity, when the responder fears giving an honest answer might negatively affect them. So that's the bias. Perceived, excuse me, lack of anonymity. Proximity. Yes. Okay. Done. Here's another bias question. Should the death penalty be permitted if innocent people might die? Well, this is another loaded question because it already provokes an opinion. So, loaded question. And that's the type of bias, and we're done with that one. Okay, here's another aspect of statistics. And the question is, in a study, the sample is chosen by separating all cars by size and selecting 10 of each size group. What is the sampling method? Well, here's a list of sampling types. By the way, this is biases, has nothing to do with sampling types, two different columns. So anyhow, our options are random sampling, stratified, quota, cluster, systematic, convenience, and voluntary. You can look those up in the book. But anytime you group or categorize items, that's called stratified sampling. So our answer is stratified. Because what happened here, they chose the cars by size, so they grouped them in terms of size, and that's all there is to it.